Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of What Has Changed Your Life. Today, we are going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about stress management. We're going to talk about finding your passion. And how do we do that? My guest today is a international best-selling author of the book called The Leadership Zone. He is also a passion test facilitator. He is the creator of the program that we're going to talk about today, the Stress Pandemic, and tools that you can use to help manage your stress. He is also a master trainer in Verbal Aikido. Everybody, welcome Ahmad-Shah Duranai. Yay! Good morning, Ahmad. How are you today?
Good morning, Tracy. I'm doing very well, and I thank you for giving me this opportunity to spend some time with your viewers and your fans and with you.
Thank you. So, you were originally in architecture. You were doing some of the biggest buildings around the world. And then something changed, and you were dealing with a lot of stress, obviously. So tell me about that time where you were like, this is getting out of control.
Okay, so architecture was my passion. Like even when I was very young, I didn't know the difference between an architect and an engineer. I had this dream that one day I will be an engineer. At that time, I didn't know that architecture was different than engineering.
Right.
So to become an architect was my childhood dream, and I became an architect. I studied in the Middle East in the American University of Beirut, and I worked there, and then I came to Canada and started work. But eventually, I have an MBA degree, so wherever I went, whichever company I went with, they found out that I have management skills. So they put me in charge of projects. So I used to manage design teams and the project. As a result, most of the work that I did were on big projects because I worked with international consulting firms. For example, I worked with the design team on the Toronto General Hospital when it was consolidating in some 22 years ago. I worked at the Atlantis Resort in Dubai,
Nice.
which is on a man-made island. I worked on the North Shell campus in Ottawa. The latest project I worked on was the Kitchener and Waterloo Courthouse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the work when you are working there, especially in multinational companies, and when the projects are international, the consultants are from all over the world. The meeting, sometimes we meet at 1:00 at night, sometimes 11:00 at night, sometimes at 5:00 in the morning, so that the time zones will fit each other. It was very stressful, but I was passionate about it. And then in 2006, I attended this program called the Passion Test. I discovered that besides architecture, I had other passions also, but they were nowhere in my life because all my energy and time was consumed on architecture.
Yeah.
That was like a wake-up call. Like a wake-up call for me. And then what I did was that I slowly transitioned so that I will have time to live those other passions also. So one of my passions was to become an author, to write books. And luckily, since then, I have written 3 books that are published, and the 4th one is coming.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah. I wanted to become a teacher or an educator. I wanted to be a speaker. And because I wasn't that famous in that area, so I created my own programs, relying on my own experience.
Right.
Yeah.
So the passion, like one of the things I hear a lot from people is they don't know what their purpose is. They don't know what their passions are. It's hard for them to narrow down what it is that they want to do with their life and feel like they have purpose and meaning and passion around what they do. I mean, we all have little things that we are like, I'm very passionate about. So for me, I love my teaching of Kangoo jumps. That is a passion. Like, it doesn't even feel like work, right? But then when I did your passion test, I discovered I have other passions that I wasn't even thinking about,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. That's
So
what happened.
let's talk about the passion test and how you got involved in being the facilitator of that.
Yeah. Okay. So what happened was that by accident, my father-in-law invited me to go with him to a program.
Yeah.
The program was run by Raymond Aaron, who is a big, famous international speaker here in the GTA. And I attended there, and I liked one of his programs, so I enrolled in it. And in the first meeting of that program, he had invited Janet Atwood, who is the creator of the Passion Test. And out of 250 people, when we went through it, she asked for a volunteer, and I rose my hand. I said, I want to be the person to volunteer, and she picked me. There were other people also, and in front of 250 people, she took me through the process, and I discovered that beside architecture, I had these other passions. It was so profound. It's simple, but so profound that eventually I said, okay, the best way I can implement this is to become a facilitator myself. So I enrolled in her program and became a passion test facilitator. And since then, I have taken hundreds of people through the process to,
Mm-hmm.
to discover their passions. Living your passions is the pathway to your purpose in life.
Yes.
That's your destiny. That's
Yes.
the best way to describe. And when you go through the process, you get a lot of clarity as to what is really the most important thing in your life that you have to focus, to pay attention to.
Yeah. And then when you start realizing, when you do the passion test, when you realize, when you rate them, your 5 different passions, and then you realize what you're focusing on and what you're not focusing on as much to live your life fully. And that was an eye opener for me, because I was like, ooh, I'm not putting as much time in, number 2 as I should be, and paying attention to number 2 or number 4 or whatever it was. And then I was like, isn't that interesting, right? Because when you don't know what your passions are and you don't know what to focus your energies on, right? If you focus your energies on too many things, then things get lost and confused. And then you feel like you have no meaning. But if you have these things, these 5 different, take 5 as we do in the passion test, and then you can focus on those 5, then your life becomes more meaningful for you.
Exactly. And the thing is that the key word is clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Janet Atwood says that when you are clear, what you want will show up in your life, and only to the extent you are clear.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that the truth, right?
And then that formula, the simple formula is intention, attention, and no tension. That,
Yes. Yeah. And what are we paying attention to? What are we not paying attention to? Exactly. I found it very informative, and it's a very easy process to go through. It's about 3.5 hours, which is not that long in the grand scheme of things. And you go through the whole process, and then you figure out what your top 5 passions are. And those passions can change, can they not, Ahmad?
over the years, of course. So Janet Atwood and Chris Atwood, they recommend that people go through every year. Every year they do it because it's the process of living your passions. So some passions, you live them, they are done, and then new passions come.
Right.
So
And the other thing I really liked was the fact that when you're talking about your passion, it's fine to say I'm passionate. So let me just look at one of the ones. See, I have it with me right here. One of the ones that was for me top was health, right? So being a cancer survivor, that's always kind of number 1 for me is maintaining optimum health.
Yeah.
But it's such a broad topic. And the thing I liked about the passion test was it made you focus on attainable goals. So to say, I want to be healthy, okay, what does that look like? How do you know you got there? How do you know you're getting there? Right? So those attainable, measurable goals help you understand, okay, yeah, I got there. Oh, yeah, I've achieved this.
Or I'm on my way there. I'm reaching that. So these markers, the markers are very important. That you could make them as goals. They will be measurable or observable.
Yes. And I think that's important because I think a lot of people get lost in creating these things, these passions or goals, and then they don't know, well, have I made it? Have I got there? How will I know? And because the topics are so broad, some of them, like I said, health is a perfect example of that.
Exactly.
Exactly. So then putting those 3 markers down, you're like, aha, now I know I'm going to get there.
And then the thing is that when those 3 markers are reached, if you still want to continue that path, you make more markers along the way. You create more markers for it. So it's a technique and a method of how to live a passionate life. The 7 principles that we talked about.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
And by the way, I just mentioned that there is a group version of passion test. There is also a one-on-one version.
Okay.
Yeah, and
so I know your next passion test is in May, in mid-May is when you're going to be halfway through May is when is that a group one or individual one?
It's the group one. The individual one I can do anytime, like people who want to go through. It's a different methodology, and so I spend time one-on-one, 2 or 3 sessions with the person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's great.
And it is not just a one-time session. It is we give them some information, we let them think about it and do their 10 statements, and then another session to get the clarity that they need, and then we dive a bit deeper than what is in the group session.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people in our group were surprised by some of the things that they thought were top priority and ended up being down here in the list of priorities. And I think that surprised a lot of people. They were like, oh, I never would have thought that would have been down here instead of up here. For me, you would have thought mom would have been number 1. But it's funny because it actually wasn't. Don't tell my kids. But it wasn't. It was a little bit further down the list.
Yeah.
And that's okay, right? It's totally okay.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
At the end, the 10 important things become like a mesh. It's like a fabric. When you pull one up, the others will go up with it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like this as you go along.
Yeah, but we choose the 5 because it's easy to remember, and also it's easier to focus on.
Yeah, and then you put them up, and then you focus on those things every day.
Yeah,
it seems like a simple thing, but it's such a big deal.
Oh, it is. It's very, very, very important. When I first discovered, and I didn't have enough clarity at that time in that first session, whatever I had put there, those 5 things, I have achieved them all. And then I have moved on. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because one of the first things you said was you wanted to be an author.
Yeah.
And when you did this, and then you became an author, almost 4 books. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm still working on my first one, Ahmad.
Yeah.
Did you hire a ghostwriter when you wrote your books, or did you write them yourselves?
No, it's my own. It's my own. So what happened was that I developed these programs that I was teaching, and then eventually each seminar that I had became one chapter in the book.
Oh, okay.
But then when I wrote the book, I found out that the seminars can be much better, improved. So as a result of the book, my seminars improved also.
Oh, that's neat. That's very
So
interesting.
there was this kind of symbiotic relationship with my seminars and the book. But what I did was to have an accountability partner who is another coach who worked with me.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a very powerful coach, and she took me to task that when I say I will do something, she makes sure it is done. And that's how
good.
Mm.
That's great. So the other thing that you've developed, and I'm really actually very passionate about this myself, because being in healthcare, we are under so much stress with this pandemic, and we have been for the last year and going into our second year of dealing with the pandemic and all the stress that's going on with it. And a lot of my colleagues, myself included, we have been under this huge bubble of stress for so long that you're starting to see healthcare workers exhibit signs of PTSD. People are taking stress leaves. They because it's just a lot to deal with not a lot of support. And so when you and I were chatting and you had mentioned you had this program, I was like, oh, we need to get the word out, because I have a whole hospital of colleagues that could benefit from this program. Because when you're in the middle of it, it's really hard to remember what the tools are. It's really hard to even know what the tools are if you've never had them before.
Yes.
And with the amount of stress that we will continue until this is over be in, I felt it was really important for us to take time to talk about this particular program to help us, healthcare workers, and anyone really, deal with stress. So let's talk about this next program that you have going, and it's March 7th is the next group.
It's on March 7th.
So I want to tell everybody, mark it in your calendars, everybody, March 7th.
Yeah. What I can do is perhaps I could later on put in the comments of your timeline the link for people.
Absolutely, I would love that. Thank you.
Want to do. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the history. As I told you, I worked on very complex projects, and where there were dozens of consultants, contractors with multiple deadlines that we had to prepare certain things. So it was extremely stressful work, despite the fact that I was passionate and my passion was carrying me. But I learned a lot of things, right? How to manage my priorities, how to allocate enough time for what is important, how to take care of my health in the same time. And so, and I had put a lot of that material in my book, The Leadership Zone.
Yes, show us your book.
Yeah,
love
the book. Okay, and I put several chapters that deal with that. It deals with a lot of items that this book is for people who want to live by design rather than by default. So there is a chapter on health. There is a chapter on wealth management. There is a chapter on how to take care of your environment. There is a lot of things. When the pandemic came and I saw people really suffering either from uncertainty or from overwhelm or from boredom or fear, anxiety, etc., all of those things, I said, okay, I'm going to do something. So I went deep into it and I created this program, which now I call it Conquer the Stress Pandemic using the six-pack toolkit.
I like that. Six-pack toolkit.
Okay, so, and I have been doing it practically every month. Every month or every 6 weeks or something, to organizations and individuals who come. It is designed in such a way, it has actually 6 compartments, this toolkit has 6 compartments. One of them is a diagnostic compartment where
Mhm.
people, like in the passion test, people discover aha things, most of them. In this diagnostic tool, also, people will find a very simple way how to see whether they're in a state of contraction or they're in a state of expansion. Because
Right.
that's all the time that we are never in a static position. Either we are moving towards being in a state of expansion or in a state of contraction. So that
Mhm.
diagnostic tool is there, and it's called the nature's guidance system.
Okay.
A lot of people, they have trouble managing their time and their priorities. So there
Yes.
is a whole section of priority tools, how to prioritize things in their life.
I think that's huge.
It's huge. It's very, very huge.
Yeah.
Then from then on, we go to another toolkit, which is physical toolkit.
Mhm.
In the physical toolkit, we cover a lot of things from deep breathing to taking care of your health,
Yeah.
nutrition, exercise, posture. Posture is a very important thing. Just one thing, that if people are in a state of contraction, they
Yeah.
will, their shoulders will droop, they will
Yeah.
breathe shallow. But in some old movies, people might have seen that when a person comes to its senses and shows that they are on their own and they can do anything, they will push their shoulders back, the chest is open, the head is up, the prefrontal cortex is higher than the rest of the head, and suddenly their whole state changes in that. So that posture is very important in
Mhm.
that. We talk about it. Then a variety of other tools, physical tools, including you know managing your finances.
Mm. That's
Finances
interesting.
is a big stressor, especially in family
Mm.
relationships. It's
Well, and I
huge.
think we're going to see a lot more of that with the younger generation
Yeah,
because the reality is, a simple example is the housing market. The housing market is so massive that you worry, what's the next generation going to do in terms of being able to purchase a home,
yeah,
right? And the financial burden that they're going to have to be under to be able to make that goal attainable. It's
exactly,
massive. Yeah,
exactly.
that's
So
yeah.
then we move from there into mental toolkit.
Mhm.
We have a variety of tools that is related to the mindset and our mental state, including relaxation, including attitude, including paradigm shifts, and a variety of other tools there. Then from there, we move to social tools. How relationships play a role in managing stress.
Yes.
Network and support system, how it does. How our communication skills can help us
Yeah.
to manage
Yeah.
stress properly. How we can develop trust with other people, because
Mhm.
a lot of stress comes when we don't trust anybody. We are all the time on the lookout if somebody is going to cheat us, somebody is going to defraud us, somebody is going to do what it says.
That's me. I don't trust a lot of people because when I was younger, I learned not to trust people,
Yeah, exactly. So
right? In circumstance in life, right? And
uh,
so I must admit, I have a very hard time trusting people when I first meet them because I think to myself, the first thing I think of is, what are they going to do to hurt me? Right?
yeah,
So then you don't, so you've already, even before you get to know the person, you're wondering that wall is
yeah,
up,
the, yeah. So
right?
so so and actually, just last Thursday, I was presenting trust to a group of professionals,
Yeah.
and so it is a whole new domain, and we touch upon it in the stress pandemic seminar. But then I have other programs. If people want to go deeper into it, they can attend my other programs and find more about how to deal with the trust triangle.
Hmm.
The trust triangle. There are three
I think I
things.
need to take that.
It's a triangle. So it's how you how other people trust you, how you can trust other people, and how
Yeah.
you can trust yourself. The
Yes.
self-trust is the base of the triangle.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah,
That's wow.
it is.
I'm,
Okay.
I'm like sitting here going, oh my goodness, I need to take more programs.
Okay.
Either
So,
that or more therapy.
and then from the social one, then we go to the spiritual. There
Yeah.
are a variety of tools because human being has a spiritual uh, dimension to it. As a matter of fact, human being is the spirit. The spirit has a
Right.
body. It's not
Right.
the other way around.
Yes.
At least to me, the
Right.
spirit has a
I
body
agree.
and
I
has a
agree.
mind and has so those spiritual tools are very powerful and important. So this whole thing, the six pack that I call it, the six compartment toolkit, is designed with what Jim Rohn says is they don't wish things were easier, wish you were better.
Mm, yeah.
So this one, obviously, we cannot control the pandemic individually,
Right.
uh, or even in small groups, or even by a country. It's such a huge thing, but we can prepare for it so that our interaction, our response to it is such that we can protect ourselves.
Right. Because the stress, having this so much stress in your life all the time, constantly, fear, anxiety, it starts to actually physically harm you.
Yeah,
Mentally, physically, it starts. So having that toolkit would, like you say, be better prepare people so that they can protect themselves and
exactly.
live happier lives because I am sure, there's a lot of healthcare workers that are not happy right now and living lives that are, and that spills into your personal life too, right?
Exactly. So this is a proactive tool. It's a
Hmm.
proactive tool, is what they say is that uh, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure.
But,
Yes,
right?
but the thing is, yeah. So I think institutions, the leadership in various institutions, have to be cognizant of the fact that their success depends on the success and well-being of
Of
those who
their
work
people.
in the institute. So they have to proactively take care of it. I say that, you know, every mess in our life creates stress, and that leads to illness,
Yes,
right?
it's true.
And so proactively taking care of your wellness prevents mental illness.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's time that we start dealing with the amount of stress that we all have. And because and it's not even healthcare workers either. There's a lot of parents that are at home working from home. Their kids are learning at home. They're not going, they're in homeschooling, and that's stress for them. And then you even look at the kids. I say kudos to the kids for rolling with these punches of having to deal with online schooling and, being at home, not being able to see their friends. There are so many different groups that could benefit from having a toolkit to help them live and protect themselves and live a happier life.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, the pandemic isn't going away.
And there is another thing also is that independent of whether we rely on our employers that they have to take care of us, we we have personal responsibility for our health also.
Mhm. Yeah.
So if the employers are at default, they default on this aspect of their responsibility, in my opinion,
Yeah.
we cannot then just be a victim of the situation. We have to take our own actions and do it. So what I have done is um, when you invited me to appear on your podcast, I extended the early bird registration for this program for
Ooh,
2 days beyond. So it will end on Tuesday. So
okay.
anybody, I will put the link there on your timeline. in the
Mhm.
comments. And will be also a promo code discount that they can
Nice.
apply.
Thank you, Ahmad. That's so generous of you. Thank you so much. And
You
for
are
everybody watching, I am enrolled in that program. So I am doing it with Ahmad on March 7th. So you'll see a familiar face there because I think it's really important to look after ourselves. This is self-care. This is about self-care for yourself and for people that you feel that will need this and these tools to live a happier life. So thank you so much, Ahmad. That's very nice of you.
self-care is I believe the lowest if the of the elements to think positively of ourselves.
Yeah.
There is this whole circle. I call it a cylinder. It starts with self-loathing, and then becomes self-acceptance, and then
Yeah.
becomes self-care, and then goes to self-love, and then,
Mhm.
so the self-acceptance, the self-care, and the self-love are the optimum things on that cylinder, and then goes to selfishness and egotism,
Mhm.
narcissism, etc. All of those. So that area which is appropriate and optimal, most people don't really spend a lot of time to do that.
That's true.
They
It's very low on people's lists of
yeah,
things to do, especially for women, because we're programmed to you have to look after everybody
yes,
else
yeah,
and put yourself down here, right? And
yeah,
so a lot of women struggle, especially, 40 plus my age group, a lot of women struggle with looking after themselves and they feel guilty about it. And I'm saying, no, self-care is necessary. It's not selfish. And
yeah.
that's a mindset that has to change.
This guilt is very rampant in people, and that's why in the spiritual toolkit, the spiritual compartment, we we talk about forgiveness.
Yeah.
And that forgiveness primarily is to forgive oneself
Yes.
from any kind of guilt attachment or anything that comes, and suddenly people become free. They don't feel
Yes.
that kind of stress their shoulders as if a big load has been taken off their
Lift.
shoulders.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if everybody should take advantage of this course. I do. I think
So,
it's such a great course and
so
it's
if
so
anybody
easily
register,
accessible.
go to Tracy's timeline, look for that link that I will put there, and
And
then
the
make
promo
sure
code.
to apply the promo code that
Yes,
says special discount from the early bird, so it is even less than the early bird that you pay, and it's valid only Monday and Tuesday, and then it's gone.
that's it. And the class is March 7th, everybody. And what's the time
It's in the evening.
in the evening?
It starts at 6:30. So it is designed that after people who have kids, the kids will be, they would have had their dinner, they will have dinner, and it's the time that they want to relax. So they come to this program and enjoy. It's not a very tedious and boring. It's a very interactive program, and,
Yes.
and I think you saw the passion test that it wasn't very boring or rigorous or something. It's
No, the three
like,
hours went by like that. It was so fast.
so this one is in the similar nature. It's interactive. People engage, they talk, they make comments, they do some assignments, a lot of things. So it's a very interactive program,
Mhm.
and I'm looking forward to see some of your fans there, and
Well,
obviously you.
thank you, thank you, thank you, Ahmad, so much for today. I think today was really important to get the word out there, get people to start living their best lives. And I want to thank everybody for watching today. For some reason, my comments were not able to show up, so I will see them later. I don't know why, but they were not coming up on my phone. They're coming up on the computer, but I couldn't look over there. So Thank you, everybody, for joining me today on another episode of What Has Changed Your Life. And I hope that this episode changed your life. And I hope you sign up and take advantage of this fantastic offer for the program. And it starts March 7th. Keep that in mind, 6:30 p.m. And you have Monday, Tuesday to put in that promo code. Thank you, Ahmad, for all your time today. A pleasure chatting with you as always. And everybody, if you think this can help somebody, like and share this podcast, and we'll see you next time on What Has Changed Your Life. Have a great day, everybody. Happy Sunday.
Thank you and goodbye.